Hey everybody, welcome back to another show with MJ. And tonight we're going to be doing episode 4. That's episode 4 of the Buzz Files. And, we've got a long story to tell you about fraud and nasty things. It all comes to an ugly place. And that ugly place is Queenstown in New Zealand. And 2008. I'm going to cast your minds back, everybody. Right back to 2008. Where were you? Well, if you were in fact in New Zealand, you would have seen that a certain helicopter crashed. And that was a very lucky day for our guest, Buzz, who was actually the pilot of that particular craft. Buzz, it's good to have you here, man.
Thanks a lot, MJ. Good to be back. Thanks to your beautiful site, voicemedia.global, for making the time to hear me out. Part 4 of the podcast series.
Look, it's good to get you on here again, man. There's a lot to cover, and look, this story is just getting more and more interesting. So listen, I'm just going to do a little summary, right? Here you are, you've bought a new helicopter in Warkworth, and you're delivering it back to going to deliver it back to Queenstown. On the way, you go through Taupo, you stay at Taupo, and then you're on your way. You've got plenty of gas in reserve, and you're about, 20 minutes or something south of Taupo, and you're going to go to a farm. You're going to land onto a farm where your wife is. You send her a text, and then next minute, engine shuts down, and you're going, holy hell. We're going to drop out of the sky. Your training is amazing. 11,000 hours in a helicopter seat, so you know what you're doing. You go auto gyro, you flare it up at the end. It goes bang into the side of a hill, and it rocks on the front nose. People, this is amazing because you know what? Not many people walk away from this sort of thing, and Buzz did because he's a very experienced and very, very knowledgeable pilot. And from there, he looked at it and his passenger was fine. Everybody walked out, and he took some notes on the way because he said, hey, what the hell just happened? How did this just crash? He noted that there was 116 litres of fuel left, right? And what the hell just happened? The aircraft's a write-off, and then they've got to walk all the way out in the middle of nowhere, right? And his passenger was a diabetic, and it just got worse, right? And the story just escalates from here. All of a sudden, the CAA, what's the CAA stand for again? Aviation? What is it?
Civil Aviation Authority.
Civil Aviation Authority. Thank you very much. There, they say that, hey, listen, this is negligence. Yeah, but negligence on the pilot. But hang on, it wasn't, because the fact was that the aircraft that he just picked up had a brand new airworthy certificate that should have not had an airworthy certificate issued, because there were changes that needed to be made to the actual fuel system. And herein lies the problem, because he was sold an aircraft that was not actually airworthy. And when he went flying south of Taupo that day, he was flying through some beams, cell tower beams, sent a text, and that sent an RF frequency which told the fuel shut-off valve to shut off, and there's no manual override. So he's, happy, helicoptering along, and the next minute sends a text, which is a normal thing, and the fuel cock gets shut. There's no fuel going to the engine. Flame out, boom, drops like a helicopter with no power. That's what it does. And gets worse, right? So now we get the negligence thing going on, and then we get something else going on, which is called white-collar crime, where people go, hey, we're going to take advantage of this situation. And that's, mainly his competition down in helicopter world down there in Queenstown, and of which in a few number of years from 2004, I think it is, that Buzz built up a really, really excellent business, and it occupied something like 80% of the market. So he was actually like going great guns, new helicopters, a great new hangar, great branding, advertising, going great guns and turning over a huge amount of money, which we'll get into in a moment. But some people wanted that money and they really wanted it bad. So they took advantage of this situation and they put him on the newspaper, on the front of the newspaper. They bankrupted him. They stole all his assets. Can you believe this? They stole his assets. They took all of them, ruined his business. Not only that, took his pilot license away from him as well. I mean, how bad is this, people? This is the power of these thieves. That's what they are, thieves. And they have the power. The Crims have the power. Pirates have taken over the ship. Where's the justice in this? This has destroyed his business. Luckily, he's got an awesome wife because she stuck by him and they were in this together. They got great kids, but it's really changed their lives. Changed their lives like you wouldn't believe. And he's been fighting this. He's been thrown into prison. What for? This is truly an amazing story. Buzz, let's pick this up. Have I given it a good summary?
Yep, pretty damn good. There's only one wee minor bit there. We were one of 5 helicopter companies just getting established there in 2004, the last one on Queenstown Airport, and so we were growing our cash flow. So yeah, the big boys didn't like that. The first helicopter company, for a bit of history, is Tim Wallace's one. It was called Alpine Helicopters back in the 1970s, which turned into the helicopter line in about 1986 when they floated it on the NZX as the Totally Tourism. No, not Totally Tourism. Tourism Holdings, I believe. Tourism Holdings back in the day with Maui camper vans and stuff. But anyway, and then you had the next one was Glacier Southern Lakes, which was funded by Mr. Hubbard, South Canterbury Finance, Helicopters New Zealand back in the day. Began in about late 1987. Roughly, yeah. And then what happened then? And then over the top, the woman pilot, Chop, she's known as Choppy Patterson. And then Heliworks appeared. That was Hannibal Hayes from Tiania with a few partners, set up in about 1999. That's where I actually got a job back in Queenstown after being in Papua New Guinea for 6 years. And then along comes the Alpine Choppers 5 years later when I teamed up with Toby Wallace and we decided to set up a small outfit in Queenstown Airport called Alpine Choppers with one early model AS350BA Squirrel, ZK Hotel November. Yeah, so yeah, those are the operators in town, and just to get things rolling here. So in the previous podcast, we have outlined it pretty good, where the growth of the company had an old machine, had a few problems mechanically, costing a lot of money. The other co-founder wanted out of the business because there was quite a few maintenance bills on that old girl, and so I did a deal where we had a handshake where I would take over the bills if he let me stay on the AOC, because he had his own little AOC, Air Operator Certificate, until I got my own. Anyway, so I managed to unload that bucket of bolts to a dude in Yakima, Washington, USA, just inland from Seattle, and got 647 USD for it. The purchase cost was 585,000 USD, locked in at 0.66 exchange rate. Just a few facts there, just for the ledger. And anyway, and I managed to get a hold of a beautiful near new Eurocopter AS350B2. It was 18 months old, had 620 hours on it, total time since new, and purchase cost was 1.33 US million. So that was really the turning point to heading in the right direction. It was still within warranty. It was like brand new, and that gave me the lifting capacity for, concrete work, construction, lifting, heli skiing, beautiful beast. And, things started to track in the right direction where the cash flows were increasing, and we were building the business as a one-man band sort of thing. I had a nice office lady in the day called Rita. In fact, Rita kept a good eye on the front desk and banked the appropriate revenues, and things were going well. And then I'd ordered a couple of new helicopters from Eurocopter in early 2007, and they were due for delivery, one in 2008, one in 2009. So it was just just a one-man sort of a ship, if you like, or one helicopter at a time, or Eurocopter at a time, which was the 6-seater, and we were straight back into a brand new, 0 time, brand new warranty, 2-year warranty. All the risk was taken out of it. It was a great strategy. I was the first one to adopt that strategy on Queenstown Airport, probably secondary to Trojan Holdings. Trojan Holdings had their own Eurocopter that they used to service the Milford track and the Rootburn track, with the resupply. So, and that was that organisation really was where I, or a subsidiary of that organisation, is where I purchased that 18-month-old B2, which was the turning point, as noted. So anyway, things are going well. I sold that machine 2 years later to Lagos, Nigeria, for $2 million USD, which was a fantastic price right at the heart of the GFC, the global financial crisis, and from there I had a 3-month gap, vacuum, if you like, before I was scheduled to take delivery of my new AS350B2 from Eurocopter, painted in Alpine Choppers colours, Viper Blue.
So that was the one from Warkworth, right?
No. So that was the one that was scheduled. Okay, so that was the scheduled replacement for the one I sold to Lagos, Nigeria, in Africa. But because I had a 3-month vacuum between, the sale time in April 2008 and the delivery schedule originally was August, but they managed to bring it forward to the 11th of July 2008, as it turned out. So there was still a 3-month gap, and I went to Warkworth to lease a machine. And that's the 10-year-old, AS350B3, which is the more powerful one. And this machine was, as I say, was 10 years old. It was one of the first of 27 ever built by the French manufacturer, adjacent to Marseille and Marianne. And it was the turning point from things going well to things going sort of in a different direction when the engine failed on the way south to Queenstown on a ferry flight, about 12 miles northeast of Masterton Airport.
So what happened after? So here you are. We're now looking a few months later on, right? How did you stumble across the fact that the problem was actually the fuel cock, and it was due to the fact of that work had not, the new updates had not been installed on that lease machine, and they were given to, that machine was given to you as airworthy. So the negligence was not you, but it goes back to Warkworth, the company that supplied you the lease for that helicopter.
Yes.
And also, well, I guess that they did the work for the helicopter, right? They were supposed to.
Correct. Skywork helicopters. Yeah.
Yeah. Skywork. That's it. Skywork helicopters. So when did the penny drop for that?
Well, basically, I guess shortly after the crash, I was, as noted, I was 5 minutes away from my destination, just outside Masterton, landing at a farm for morning tea at the in-laws farm, and I'd sent a text on my BlackBerry phone. We were cruising along at about 800 feet AGL, sent a text, landing 25 min, sent, phone in the top pocket. Within 5 to 7 seconds of pushing the button to send that text, beep, beep, beep on the dashboard, engine out, red light, and I'm going, what? Can't be. I was a little surprised, to say the least. And yeah, so the engine stopped, and I was a little slow getting the collective down because I was in disbelief. It was a very windy day, like it was 20-25 knots gusting, and the trip had been a little lumpy on the way across the Kaimanawas, south of Taupo. Anyway, ended up in a smouldering heap, if you like, on the side of a hill. When I say smouldering heap, the smouldering heap was parts from the tail of the helicopter that got knocked out, the drive shaft, where the blades came down and knocked 8 inches out of the tail boom, which, kicked the drive shaft to the tail rotor out onto the dewy autumn morning, which was the 23rd of April 2008. At 9:02 in the morning. But the penny dropped when it was so close to the text, within seconds. And number 2 was, as it turned out, we were at the intersection of 4 cell phone towers, Castle Point to Otahua/Bennett Hill, which is the wee mountain just east of Masterton, where there's a big telecommunication tower. I was flying straight into that big microwave dish on that big repeater on the top of that hill, which is probably about 150 foot high, on top of the hill. And then the other one was Rangatumau, which is a mountain near Ikirahuna. Another big repeater points to Riversdale out on the coast. So when you had your topographical map and, you drew a straight line from those 4 towers, that's where the engine actually stopped. Little coincidence. So that's when we got very suspicious why it stopped. And I was lucky to come across a guy that knew lots about electronics. I started to follow a lot of crashes around the world: Norway, Sweden, Scandinavia, America, Mexico. A lot of these B3s had been crashing, and what would you say, the NTSB or the BEA or whoever the appropriate authority was for those countries, they didn't come out and say, they were from fuel starvation or, the stepper motor closing the fuel valve off. But what did ring true was that when you really looked into it, there was a lot of similarities to my one. And so you've really got to dig like a detective to get the clues to know which ones were and which ones weren't. Could have been very similar to my own situation. We did get to see a document that showed the serial number of the computer. There was a computer called a DQ, Digital Engine Control Unit, lived in the boot of the helicopter, on the firewall, if you like, and that, obviously was wired up to the instrument panel. There was wires to the instrument panel to a VEMD, and that stands for Vehicle Engine Management Display. So, so the pilot obviously looks at his, he's in the cockpit there flying along, and he's obviously looking at his gauges, and that's what that was. There was a glass cockpit, connected to the computer in the back of the aircraft below the engine bay. And that also was connected to the fuel system, the metering system, which is called the HMU, the hydro metering unit. And in amongst the hydro metering unit is a stepper motor, which is just like a little electric motor, if you can think of a little electric motor. It's got windings, obviously. And then it has a shaft, obviously, in the center, and it goes clockwise or anti-clockwise. And on the end of that little shaft is a cog. Just think of a round cog. And then there's a rack. And so the little rack goes back and forward, depending on the anti-clockwise, clockwise or anti-clockwise movement of the center shaft. And on the end of the rack is the fuel valve. So obviously the fuel valve is like a tapered arrangement where it opens up and more fuel goes in, or can close right off and the fuel is cut off. And so the evidence shows, this is evidence from, down the track. The aircraft was carted off to Taupo, to John Fennell's hangar, about 2 or 3 days later, picked up by all arranged by the CAA, supposedly, where a truck came to take it away, and it went to John Fennell's hangar in Taupo. Don't know what really happened there, but one of the things we saw was the DQ dump. It's a bit like a software, electronic software dump that could have been a Eurocopter or a Turbomeca representative had done the download, right? So they suck all the information off the computer to see what went wrong. And what we saw was a code failure, I think it was code 14 and code 16, that showed it said stepper motor failure was one of the things. Well,
Right.
hello.
Yeah.
And also there was obviously 116 litres at the time of the crash, and so I rang up the Skywork Helicopters CEO, which is Roger Stevenson, and just said, hey, you heap of shit's just stopped on me. I've crashed on the side of a hill, northeast of Masterton. And anyway, so he was the first one to get a call when it happened. And then we evidence will show that he obviously called Murray Benz, and Murray Benz was the technical representative for Eurocopter based out of Ardmore Airport. There was a hangar at Ardmore Airport, and he ended up to be a nasty little bastard. It appears that he was colluding with a Peter Kirker in the New Zealand CAA, Civil Aviation Authority in Wellington, and they were trying to shut the whole investigation down. And so they concocted a story where I'd run out of gas. And then they used one of my main competitors on Queenstown Airport called Pat West of Glacier Southern Lakes. He was a manager for the South Canterbury Finance / Mr. Hubbard's outfit, which was in different people's hands now. There was, 7 to 10 shareholders in that outfit. We silent shareholders, and Pat West, the wee South African, was the manager. And so he started spreading a rumour to his son, Luke West, who was working as an apprentice mechanic over in Wanaka. And so he rang his son up and said, hey, the buzz has run out of fuel in his chopper, spread it. So obviously the little son, yap in the hangar over there at Heli Support in Wanaka. And away goes, six engineers or employees in that hangar get the word that the buzz has run out of fuel because Daddy said so. How did Daddy know? Well, he was obviously in collusion with Peter Kirker in Wellington and or Murray Benz in Ardmore Airport, the Eurocopter representative.
So I want to park that for a moment, and we'll come back to that where you've left off there. But the CAA report, what did that say? The crash report. Okay,
so this is the amazing thing. So in New Zealand or, in abroad, you've heard of an outfit called the NTSB, the National Transport Safety Bureau. That's the American one under the FAA. In France, it's called the BEA. So, all countries have an independent unit. But in New Zealand, it's called the TAIC, Transport Accident Investigation Commission. And so the manager of that outfit was Peter Williams. Peter Williams was in charge, and it was his duty to instigate a investigation onto why this helicopter crashed, and the reason for that is under ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, based out of Montreal. This organization is a flow-on from the Chicago Convention just after World War II. New Zealand was a member state of the organization, the Montreal outfit. And so if you get into the regulations there, anything where there's an engine failure or structural damage, it is mandatory to investigate. I say again, it is mandatory to investigate whenever there is a engine flame out causing a crash or there is structural damage. So obviously this helicopter had both those. It was a bit smacked up. Quite lucky it didn't go on fire because it did have 116 litres of fuel in it. If you hit hard, the fuel tank's made of polymer, plastic like a pump bottle, and that bursts open and the fuel goes on the exhaust pipe and up in smoke you go. You end up as a cremated pilot, just like that, which has happened to a lot of unfortunate folks around the world in the last sort of 20 years. But so does that answer your question there, MJ?
Well, kind of. What did the actual report say? Have you ever seen the
never
report?
got to that. No.
Was there
official
information?
Report
done?
Yeah.
Was there a report done?
They say they didn't do a report. What we did get was we did it. They said that they will not investigate within the first 24 hours. the TAIC said, we will not investigate this accident.
What?
So wouldn't you think that's a little suspicious?
Hang on. More than a little bit suspicious. So hang on, let me get this straight.
Yes.
So they said there will be no investigation in your crash.
We didn't know that at the time, of course, but
how is that even possible, Buzz?
That came out. Yeah, well, I think there's a fair bit of collusion. Once again, this Murray Benz talking to Peter Kirker. Peter Kirker was ex-Air Force, supposedly. Air Force, it sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? But, Royal New Zealand. He's probably from Ohaka or something. He probably swept the floor, I'd say, by the sound of it. But anyway, he had the position in the NZCAA, and he was higher up the food chain than Tom McCready, who was a good guy. And he was actually tasked with, doing some investigations, within 2 or 3 days of the crash day. But subsequently, we got evidence or information saying that within the first 24 hours, the TAIC would not investigate this crash. So there was a bit of a, because obviously they asked me what happened. I says, I was flying along. I sent a text on my BlackBerry. Put the phone back in my top pocket. Within 5 to 7 seconds, the engine shut down. And by the way, I was at the intersection of 4 cell phone towers when the engine stopped.
Well, this is huge.
So that's what they had from me. Yeah. They didn't even go to the crash site, supposedly.
Wow. So, I mean, how can they conduct any kind of insurance inquiry? How can they actually allocate any negligence? How can you, as a business owner, go back to the Warkworth Helicopter Company and say, guys, you're negligent here?
It wasn't fit for purpose. The Commerce Commission.
The Commerce Commission. That's right. So how can you do any of this? You can't if you haven't got a. Well, but then how can they put the pin, the tail on the donkey? Sorry, you being the donkey here. That I don't mean that in any disrespect, but how can they pin the negligence on you, put your business into receivership, steal all the assets, shut you down, without and ruin your career, right? Put you into financial hardship.
They took it out.
And everything that you've gone through, right? And there's no report. How can they do all this?
No, they it's just a big fraud ring. You know what? We've done a lot of investigations. We've been on the case now for 13.5 years since the fraudulent conversion of Alpine choppers, which began on the 1st of December 2010. Obviously, the engine failure happened 18 months roughly before that. So these guys had 18 months of colluding and scheming and conspiring to decide what they were going to do with me and my helicopter company. And obviously they were all ready to take me out, which they did on the 1st of December. A point to note is I used to have finance originally with UDC Finance, which was a subsidiary of ANZ Bank. I made a monster mistake, as noted in an earlier version, where I said I was on a twilight boat cruise on Lake Wanaka, where I met Warwick Allen Baxter. Warwick Allen Baxter was an Tautau kid. He came out of a Tautau. He obviously wanted to get out of that neighbourhood and work his way up the chain. And so he ended up working for the finance company out of Invercargill. And so from there, he moved on from there and must have gone to South Canterbury Finance working for Mr. Hubbard. And then he didn't like that, supposedly. He told me all this, by the way. And then, he says, the money's no good or whatever. So Mr. Hubbard said, okay, well, we'll do, what can we do or whatever. And he says, well, I want a piece of the action. So they decided to set up a subsidiary called Face Finance. And so South Canterbury Finance owns 75% of the shares of Face Finance. This individual, Warwick Baxter, owned 15% of Face Finance. Another guy, Jeffrey Abbott, owned 10%. And it was funded by South Canterbury Finance Mother Hubbard Cupboard with $200 million of funding, which was then farmed out via Baxter and his lips to trucking companies, aviation companies. Peter Vincent of Vincent Aviation out of Wellington was one. North Tugger Road Metals, maybe Tim Smith Cranes, those sort of organisations. And Baxter was the big shot there. So that's really, where things went bad, because those guys, I switched across to those guys on the 31st of January 2008, the Face Finance. And obviously the engine failure happened about 3 months after that, on April the 23rd, 2008. On the 28th of August 2010, South Canterbury Finance and Face Finance and other subsidiaries of Mr. Hubbard all went into receivership under the Crown Government Guarantee Scheme, under the John Keys and Bill English government, national government. They were in a guarantee scheme, a government guarantee scheme for $1.775 billion. Subsequently, it shows that they only recovered about $350 million. So there was a impairment of about $1.4 billion. Quite a lot of money, isn't it?
That's quite a laundry.
For a finance company.
It's a big laundry.
It's a big laundry. So just to finish that wee bit off, so 28th of August 2010, they're in receivership. And then McGrath Nickel, this company in Auckland, I actually looked it up last night. There's 103 partners on McGrath Nickel. They're based out of Auckland and Martin Place in Sydney, down in downtown CBD Sydney. And William Guy Black is the chairman. Now, William Guy Black was the guy that was responsible for the Alpine Choppers receivership. And his partner was a guy he was from Montreal, was called Kieran Mark Downey. And Kieran Mark Downey is the guy that applied to have me bankrupted based on fraudulent documentation. So Kieran Mark Downey's got a lot to answer for. But anyway, so they used a couple of accountants from Christchurch called from BDO, and they were called Stephen John Tubbs and Colin Anthony Gower. Now the point here is Stephen John Tubbs was the ex-chairman of the NZICA. That is the New Zealand Institute of Chartered Accountants. Stephen John Tubbs, chairman, ex-chairman, walking into Alpine Choppers on the 1st of December and fraudulently converting the business, the assets, and carrying out the biggest criminal act, which he has a lot to answer for.
And just to reiterate, you've not seen a cent out of any of this, have you? They took everything.
No, yet Mr. Tubbs, he walks into the hangar. He makes a press release the next day into the Southland Times ODT, and he puts in there that the Buzz owes $9.5 million publicly in the newspaper, and that's just getting started. That's just preliminary. It could be higher. So it's a real. I could say it makes my blood boil, but my blood's it's just simmering at the moment. It's been on the boil in the early years, but what we've put together, all the evidence and the documentation that proves that Stephen John Tubbs, his offsider Colin Anthony Gower, their associates, who were the appointed receivers for South Canterbury Finance and Face Finance, which is William Guy Black and Mark Kieran Downey of McGrath Nickel. Those four there have a lot to answer for in front of a judge. And obviously the liquidators for those outfits were PricewaterhouseCoopers, David Bridgman and John Fisk. Now, the six of those guys need to be paged into a boardroom for a little chat. And we need to have a wee chat there in the near future, because they've got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, they sure have. I mean, the more I get into the story with you, it's not only your blood that's boiling. Everyone's blood should be boiling on this, because, I mean, the fact is that, the legislation or law is covering up for the innocent, or covering up the crime, and it's not doing anything for the innocent. So, this is not the first time. I mean, this goes on all the time, right? So, and we've got a lot of these
Yeah.
high-powered judges and government officials. The corruption is rife. And I say that because
It's
you can see
rotten.
what's happening around the world, right? I'm not even just talking about New Zealand.
Yes.
I'm just talking about everywhere. So, this situation is just an example, a true example, our listeners. Have a listen to what's going on, because, you really need to keep your eyes open and see this for what it is. So what we've got here is a laundry. We've got a massive laundry going on, where they loan the money out to companies. They can see how well they're doing because they've got a report to the finance company. And when they see they're doing really well, they're going to figure out a way to bankrupt you and put you into receivership, destroy you, and take all the money. Because receivers, they can charge whatever they want. Isn't that correct, the Buzz?
Oh yeah, they've got sort of unlimited powers. Although we've been looking into a thing called a GSA. That stands for a General Security Agreement. Now, obviously, there's a lot of terms and conditions in a GSA, and we've found a lot of anomalies in the Buzz's GSA. And we can tell you right now that these people have committed fraud of the highest level. What they did was totally fraudulent, and I just want to move it along into the next couple of months. MJ, are you ready for the next week chapter?
I was going to say,
we don't want to sort of
because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
But what I want to do is just say, let's park all that stuff, because we've got to go back to the timeline, what they actually did to you.
Yes.
Right. This is what this is the story, right? That what they subjugated you to, and your family, and others, and what you take it over now. Come on now, do it.
Yeah. Okay. So they walk in. Here they go. The big, engine failure. Cover up the air. Thanks to the NZCAA. Wasn't airworthy, and they line me up for 18 months or collude or whatever they're up to, and then they conspire, and sure enough, they walk in there with BDO, the old ex-chairman, takes me out 1st of December. Had a bit of a squabble with the fella, and then on day 57 of the receivership, we have a Krusty the Clown. He's a lawyer from Auckland, Eden Way in Auckland. He rings me up, and I'd engaged him to take care of this heli-ski guy, but he was bloody hopeless. No offense, but he was absolutely hopeless. And anyway, so he rings me up out of the blue. He had been dealing with this heli-ski thing, but obviously they got onto him. And the opponent for the heli-ski, he had employed a guy called Murray Tingy from Bell Gully. Now, for those that don't know, Bell Gully's a big shot law firm in Shorty Street, Auckland. So Murray Tingy's he's an expert, and very suspicious circumstances. But anyway, so Murray Tingy there is where he's been engaged by the heli-ski guy from Sydney, and the Buzz has got Krusty the Clown from Eden Parkway, who's a disorganised guy. And anyway, he's sucking the money flat out. Right. Not doing a very good job, I might add. And he pulls up on the phone on the 27th of January 2011 and says, Buzz, you're taking the hanger back today from those receivers. I want you to go in there, take the sublease, your paperwork for the sublease, and call me when you're in the inside. Don't touch the choppers, and call me when you're in the inside. So, we go, oh, well, we've got our barrister there from Auckland. He must know what he's doing. So we ring the police before I go in, left a message with one of the police fellas I knew from the search and rescue called Julian Cahill. And we go into the hangar, pull Krusty the Clown, say we're in the hangar, says, oh, great, yep, stay in there, I'll give you a call in a couple of hours, or give us a call in a couple of hours. Anyway, about 4 hours later, the police arrive. And I think I mentioned in an earlier version, I get carted off down to the police station and subsequently charged with burglary. Can you believe it? Locked up, fingerprinted.
Hang on.
And
so
even
you're in your own hangar, right? And they charge you for burglary, and they hold you in a cell, right?
Yep.
And they charge you for burglary.
The hangar's not owned by Alpine Choppers. It's owned by Frankton Hire, a company that I own. And so yeah, so not only did I appear in the newspaper on the what would you say, the 2nd of December 2010, I'm now back in the paper on the 28th of January, 57 or 58 days later, for burglary of Alpine choppers, and I'm the owner of it, and it's in receivership, and it's a fraudulent receivership. For anybody who wants to get that clarified, give me a call. But anyway, so things. The buzz has really got a bit of a spotlight on them. If they didn't, they've really gone all out to destroy the buzz.
Yeah, so they've used the classic, defamation and take away all your resources, all they can to put you out of action, right?
Oh well, who's gonna make a phone call to come in the door? You can imagine the hotels around Queenstown, a trip to Milford Sound. Oh, no, don't go with that fella. He's been in the slammer. Oh, he's burglary. He's burglarised his own hangar. Oh, yeah. Well done, Pat West. Pat West seems to be the guy that, and Tubbs, BDO Tubbs and Gower, and their two little pretty girls that they had there, Diana Hoare, and, that's her married name. I think she got divorced, but she's Diana McTaggart now, I believe. And the other girl was Julia Burdett Clark, and they're nice enough, kids, but these receivers have got these accountants, these criminals have got these couple of girls hanging off them, and it's all part of the ploy. They're playing the game, and behind that they've probably got a few lawyers, and they've obviously got Warwick Baxter, the old Faith Finance 15% shareholder. He's created all this stuff, and he knows that they just put themselves into voluntary receivership, and after they got all their money laundering sorted out. And, for those that don't know, Warwick Baxter's actually done a full circle, and he's now in my hangar, the Frankton Hire / Alpine Choppers leased hangar. Warwick Baxter's got his name on that hangar. It's called Salis Aviation. The name came from Berlin, Germany, just south of. And Baxter's picked up Oceania Aviation and Airwork, the other two Ardmore Airport maintenance outfits, or the big ones across New Zealand. So he owns both those under the Salis Aviation brand, and that's Warwick Allen Baxter from Otautau.
Wow, that's incredible. So listen. So what happened after that? So okay, you've come out of the slammer for the night, and you go home. And so what happens then?
Well, I'm probably shaking my head a bit, going, "What the hell happened then?" It's a setup. I get out. I had to appear before the judge that day, and so I'm in the wee box there, and I don't even think I had a bloody lawyer. It's bloody atrocious, isn't it? But anyway, so what happened was, how do you plead not guilty? You're right, adjourned or whatever. And then I appeared. I had to sign some bail form. I'm on bail now. And the guy at the bail form, I knew him. He was a retired policeman. He was an old boy. And when I went to boarding school down in the Southland, I knew his sons. They're in the rugby team, or at the school where I was at high school. But anyway, so he told me, he said, "Listen, Buzz, hang in there, you'll be okay," because I think he realised it was a bit of a setup. He was a good guy. Anyway, so I'm on bail for a whole year. I appeared two or three times throughout the year of 2011. I appeared at one point, and the judge was Dominic Flatley. He was 1 year older than me, in the class above at boarding school in Gore, St. Peter's College. And Dominic Flatley says, "I've got a conflict of interest or whatever. I can't hear this case." So obviously that was one of the appearances. But anyway, after a whole year, there was a bit of a verbal typo in the previous episode. I appeared in the Invercargill District Court, and it was there where I appeared before Judge Phillips, where I was acquitted on all charges because the Crown offered no evidence. So basically, 12 months later, the Crown drops all the charges of burglary against the Buzz. There was no evidence. There never was any evidence. I was perfectly within my rights. But do any of the people that read the newspaper or, used to fly with Alpine choppers remember that to this day? No. All they remember is burglary and all the backstabbing that's gone on from, across Queenstown Airport from Pat West and his associates, all the way to Murray Beans at Ardmore Airport, with the engine failure. He ran out of fuel.
Yeah, that's a total cancellation campaign, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and not only that,
and we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of that over the last 3 to 4 years. That's for sure. With everything that's been going on with the, the other stuff that's been going on. But okay, so now listen. So what happens then? So what? So okay. So
okay.
You're not going to be lying down and taking it, eh?
No. So basically, I didn't really have anybody helping me. An interesting point is there was a guy called Peter James Heenan. He was the accountant for Alpine Shoppers. He could have stepped in at any time and disproved the fraudulent actions taken place by Stephen John Tubbs and Colin Anthony Gower of BDO, where they converted Alpine Shoppers. But anyway, he was from an Invercargill accountant firm called Ward Wilson, which later sold out to WHK, and he was a partner down there. But just to put it in perspective, 28th of January 2011, I get out of jail. I've had an overnight in the old slammer. I get out early in the morning. I appear before the judge. How do you plead? Not guilty, as we've stated. Then what happens is, moving forward, I'm sitting down there at my house at Jack's Point, number 1 Sky Lane, and no income, right? I've lost my source of income. I've got a wife and 2 kids down there at that point. I've actually got 3 kids, all under 4, 4 years and below. A lot of stress, no cash coming in. It's about 3 months later, and a guy knocks on the door, dark-skinned fella, and he hands me some documents. I didn't know what they were, but it said summary judgment, and so I didn't know what a summary judgment was. So anyway, I thought I'd ring a lawyer in Auckland, somebody far away from Queenstown. So I rang this guy called Paul Farry from Farry & Co in Auckland, and he says, put $3,000 in my bank account and come and see me, in a week or something. So I didn't have the $3,000 or an air ticket to Auckland. So a good friend in Queenstown loaned me the money, and I paid the guy $3,000, got an air ticket, flew to Auckland, walked into the guy's office. Paul Farry, how do you do? Here's the paperwork. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, don't worry about that. We'll worry about that later. I said, are you sure? What does it mean? He goes, no, it's fine. Yeah, no, don't worry about that. So I walk out of there 5 or 10 minutes later after seeing Paul Farry & Co. The $3,000 for him was quite good, eh? I remember it was about 3 o'clock. He probably was in a smoko break, 10 minutes of smoko for $3,000 cash. And I head on back down to Queenstown. And April the 6th, 2011 was the hearing. Obviously, I didn't go because he said, don't go, don't worry about that. We'll worry about that later. And Judge Abbott was the judge on that day. We don't know what happened, but Preston Russell, I believe, were the Crown prosecutors. We don't know what went on there, but obviously they whacked the hammer on something. And what they whacked the hammer on appears to be quite a few $1 million. Okay? So we won't get into just how big those millions are just yet, but from there, I thought to myself, we got to get the F out of here, right? Get out of Dodge because, we've got nobody we can trust. Did I have a lawyer? Yeah. Revel Buckham from Berry & Co. Geez, we've got a chapter for him. We'll talk about him another chapter, but, useless. The accountant, Peter James Heenan, he could have solved all this. No, didn't do much good, did he? He's obviously a bit of social climbing or a few deals going on there. As it turns out, he left his accountant firm within 1 or 2 months of the conversion of Alpine Shoppers and got a job at the Richardson Group as the financial controller for Bill Richardson, the concrete trucks, Allied Concrete. And, I rang him up about 9 months ago, actually. I was in Oliver's restaurant in Clyde, Central Otago, and I thought I'd just give him a wee call, give him a chance to come clean. And I says, Peter, we're going to be taking this case public, and we're coming after the people that ripped off my helicopter company. and caused all these damages. And I said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come clean. And he said to me, I said, what do you think about that or whatever? And he says, nah, I'm going to stick with the others. Peter James Heenan said to me he would stick with the others. Well, I've got news for you, Peter Heenan, because for all the people listening today, this Peter James Heenan happens to be my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law.
Wow.
The dirty little rat. Yeah. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. I hate to even talk about it publicly, but that guy there is the biggest coward I've ever seen. And unfortunately, he's going to be featuring in one of the chapters of the up-and-coming Buzz files, which are, going to be printed in due course and featuring in Paper Plus from here to Barnes & Noble in New York City. But anyway, moving right along, step right in, MJ. Where would you like to carry on to next?
So I think from memory, you told me you guys went to Australia.
Yeah, that's it. So I thought we'd get out of Dodge. So I got the old neighbours over at Jacks Point, just south of Queenstown Airport. We were one of the first couple of residents there in that development, moving in August 2008. Used to park the Hughes 500 at the end of the street. It had 10 houses in a wee cul-de-sac, and they're all empty houses, so I could fly home for lunch, if you like. A 1 minute flight from the airport.
How much fun
Land
is
at
that?
the end of the driveway. Oh, yeah, a bit of a laugh. I'm sure there's a bit of jealousy. I probably stirred a few up there. But anyway, so, home for bacon and eggs for lunch, BLT. And anyway, so I thought we better get the hell out of here. So I decided to go to Sydney. So we packed up the house late at night. I think I mentioned that I moved the beds and stuff out the night before. And about midnight, we all jumped in the car and headed to Christchurch, and I arrived about 5 o'clock in the morning. It's quite a big drive, a good 5 hours drive. Got on a plane, 0600 to Sydney. And anyway, so I ended up staying with my little sister over there for about a month, her and her husband. And then from there, we ended up travelling up the coast, New South Wales coast, to the Gold Coast, where we checked into one of those big high rises. It was the off season, so I think we got a reasonably good deal there. So we were parked up there for about 3 months, I think, in the Gold Coast, while I'm floundering through, law and accountancy, trying to, work out what the hell actually happened and how this system works.
Totally.
Yeah.
What actually happened? Totally.
Fuck, it's unbelievable. So, well, we basically, I wasn't making much progress, but I was obviously trying my best, being a layman with a profession as an aviator, not a lawyer or an accountant or a liquidator. But anyway, I didn't really, in hindsight, get too far. It was a few late nights. But anyway, so then it was about August. I got sucked into coming back to New Zealand. I was still on bail. So one of the trips was I came back into Auckland and had my bail thing stamped in Auckland District Court, and then got back on the plane and went straight back. Because the idea, what people need to understand, is when they do this, the burglary charge, the idea is they got you, and so they got you under the thumb. So, they need to be able to get you bankrupted. So they're obviously getting all their dirty dealings done and stealing the assets and getting all that washed up with their dodgy accountants. And then it's all rubber stamped in the courts and stuff. So what they needed to do next is to bankrupt the buzz. To bankrupt the buzz, they had to serve. They had to, serve the bankruptcy papers on the buzz, and he had to appear in a court before a judge to get bankrupted. And so they needed to get their hands on me. But where was I? I was in Australia. And anyway, so what their dirty trick was then is there was a local guy in Alexandria called Richard Hoekstra. Now, Richard Hoekstra came from Balclutha, kind of a ratty guy, and he was he was a security guy. There's a few stickers around town. You see his name. He's Hoekstra Security. But anyway, we'd engaged him earlier on, and we'd paid him $2,500. In fact, Milford Helicopters owner had paid him $2,500 to recover the A-Star cargo module molds, which were the molds that we had, fiberglass molds we had manufactured to form the production of the A-Star cargo module, which was the ski module that went on the side of the helicopter, for the Eurocopter AS350 series, right? And so we'd made 4 of those prototypes and had them all certified, and they were flying prior to the receivers showing up. Well, they weren't receivers, the criminals arriving on the 1st of December 2010. And anyway, so when they took me out, guess what happened? Oceania Aviation,
They stole the
Oceania Aviation. Oh yeah, they stole it. They stole my manufacturer, Robbie, the manufacturer from Slovakia or whatever. He was down at Glenda Drive, working out of Queenstown Fiberglass, and they employed him. He made about eight to a dozen, I understand, and then they ditched him when they worked out how to do it themselves and took it off to Hamilton, and there they rattled them out like sausages. They go for about 40,000 US each, and they were selling them right across New Zealand and into Canada. I actually had a patent in the USPTO in the USA out of New York with Charles Baxley and patent attorney. But anyway, so thanks to those good old BDO guys, it was a really lucrative deal taking out the Buzz and Alpine Choppers and letting Warwick Baxter and his associates through Oceania, Josh Camp, and the helicopter assets were given away to Pat West for peanuts. I think we've got a credit of $967,000 on the company office, and there was about $7.5 million worth of value of aviation assets. So, they really got away with the song. And when we challenged the receivers why they, gave the assets away for peanuts, the receivers said, we discounted them further because the hours were unknown. Now, how the hell are the hours unknown on a helicopter? So they lied to the receivers to gain a pecuniary advantage. The receiver lied to the institute, because he was obviously dragged up. He was the ex-chairman, remember? So he was obviously dragged before the new chairman. And so, it was perfect, wasn't it? Because it didn't get far, did it? But his explanation was that the hours were discounted further because the hours were unknown. And so that's why the helicopter sold for, $1 million for everything, basically, or whatever. And, it just doesn't quite stack up, Mr. Tubbs.
No, it doesn't, does it? So, but it's astounding how they can do all of this without even you signing off any authorization, not signing a document.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They just, it's smoke and mirrors. Defaming tactics, Pat West, Glacier Southern Lakes, he's got a lot to answer for. But listen, let's move along a wee bit. So,
I'll tell you what we're going to do.
So then obviously they had to get bankrupted.
Buzz, we're going to leave this.
I'll just finish off on this bankruptcy bit.
Well, I think we should keep that for the next time, really. I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should that. Because,
yes, we should.
There's a lot of information in here, and I think we should put this into episode 5, where we do a quick summary. And so far to date, and then we talk about the bankruptcy, because that is, I know you've told me a bit about it, that is just horrific.
That's hell. Nasty. That's hell, man.
It's just nasty.
Nobody wants to go through bankruptcy.
No,
nasty shit.
We're gonna do that next time, Buzz. So listen, why don't we roll some music there, Charlie, and let's get this episode wound up. That was kind of a helicopter joke, but it wasn't that good, was it? Autogyro? No. Rotated? No. Well, let's start it off. Now, Charlie, are you there? Charlie is our, he is the number one production dude, and we have a production person too who's looking after live stream, and she's doing a wonderful job, and she's doing an amazing job, and she's pushing buttons and that kind of stuff, and answering questions, and they're both doing fabulous jobs, really. So, but Charlie, come on now, roll some music. Are you there, Charlie? Are you there? Oh, here we go.
I am. I'm just having trouble getting.
There he is. He found it. Okay, this is it. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us, the Buzz and MJ on voicemedia.global. So if you're not there, you better get there, because that's where we talk and we don't censor. We don't do surveillance. We don't do any tracking, because we believe in freedom of speech. And that's what, if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have freedom. So that's what I'm going to say, and you're going to catch us on the next one, episode 5, where Buzz tells us horrific tale. It gets further, deeper and deeper. And these people, these rats, we need to shine the light on them, because you know what happens when you shine lights on rats? They run. They run, little rats, run. Okay, I'm out. Bye for now.
Well done, MJ. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of yapping. I sort of was losing my train of thought because I'm... Oh.
Here we go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The Buzz has just left the building.
Yep. Yeah, I've hit stop. It's just...
Yeah, you're just having fun now.
Lord.
You found the buttons now, haven't you? Huh?
Yeah, I found the buttons.
There you go.
Yeah, I found the buttons.
There you go. Yeah, good one, Pam.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to wind down now. Just give us a sec. Come on, stop. It's still saying we're on YouTube. Hang on, 1, 2, come on, stop. No, I've hit the stop button. We might have to edit this last bit out.
Okay. Well, good work, Buzz.
Thank you so much for your effort, Pam.
Oh, yeah. Pam, you did
MJ,
great.
Charlie.
Yep, it's all good.
I'm leaving the studio and I'm going into the Rat's Nest Lounge.
There
There's
you
no
go.
rats in here.
No.
The house just needs burnt down.